So I have a hand from the Venetian, the 3-5 game. It's a 1200 cap. We were 8 players, and I'm will be the effective stack at 1100.
So 3, 5, 1200 cap. And I think I went over this with my graphics guy, Todd, who might be watching this live, that these rooms in Vegas are trying to like differentiate themselves with like different cap amounts, right? In their
Yeah.
$5 blind game. So this is 1200.
Yeah, the Venetian actually has a 1-3, a 2-4, and a 3-5. So with a 600 cap on the 2-4, which is a little weird, but this game was pretty good. It was, I would say, semi loose, semi passive, having a lot of like 3 and 4 way pots, not a ton of three betting, but a little bit. But I think it was a pretty good game.
Okay.
So I've been there for about 2 hours. I'd say I've been pretty tight aggressive. Nothing out of line. Didn't show down any big bluffs or anything. I would say most people would probably mark me as unremarkable
Okay.
at this point. So the hand. There's an under the gun limp. I'm in the hijack with 10-9 of hearts. I make it 25 to go.
Okay.
The big blind and under the gun call.
Big blind and UTG call. And just a quick little aside, which I teach a lot of my students, when you get to live games and they don't know how to respond, especially if you're coming from an online background, when they don't know how to respond to limps, I say, listen, usually in a live game, I ignore one limp and just open what I would normally open in a given scenario. Now, when more than, say, 2 or more people limp, then what I'll do is I'll open hands that I would only open from up front.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like ace,
Yeah.
thing. And then I would sometimes we'll develop some overlimp strategies depending on the rake. It's kind of tough to overlimp like in a 5, $8 drop game like in LA.
Right.
But that's sort of how I approach these spots. So you're going to open this anyways under the gun limp hero to 25 with 10-9 suited from the hijack. Big blind under the gun call. Okay.
All right. So I have $70 on the flop.
Mm-hmm.
The flop is Queen of Spades, 9 of Diamonds, 9 of Clubs.
Ah, pretty good flop, huh?
Not bad, right?
Yep. Yep.
They check to me.
Mm-hmm.
I bet 35, about half pot. The big blind calls and the undergun folds.
So big blind next at calls, which obviously should lend itself to be slightly stronger. And it's Queen 9-9, rainbow board, but obviously, Jack 10, King Jack, Queens. And again, when you flop trips, this is even better than, when trips are top. Like, forget about the straight draws, but I mean, you'd much rather have like King 8-8 and have trip eights than 8-8 deuce, right?
Right.
So, yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
sounds
so I
good.
think there's a ton I can get called by here. I think people appeal with sometimes with just a pair, like they'll appeal sometimes with 6s or 7s in a spot like this.
Should be kind of, I mean, he shouldn't be peeling with 6s or 7s with a guy behind him,
I see
but
people do it all the time, but
sure.
maybe not. But I thought a half pot bet is probably fine on this. Especially since I have the 10, so there's a little less straight draws maybe, but there's probably plenty of stuff that can call me on this flop.
Okay. So about 145. Okay.
Right. So the turn is the 5 of spades, bringing in a backdoor flush draw.
Queen 9-9-5, and the queen and the 5 are spades, by the way. You do not have the 9 of spades, just something subtle, right? Okay. Uh-huh.
So big blind checks. I size up to 115 here.
Yeah, I would say I was going to go like at least 100, but yeah, 115, okay. Mm-hmm.
Because I figure, with the backdoor flush draw, he already called me on the flop. If he called me on the flop, there's a good chance, he could still call me again on this turn.
Yeah, I don't think like the gut shots are calling anymore. I mean, even Jack, the only thing possibly would be if Jack 10 folds here, but I mean, I still think a queen is calling, things like that. So, okay, so you go 115, okay. Mm-hmm.
And now the big blind check raises to 315.
By the way, how deep were you? I'm sorry, you said you were playing the 1200.
11. I'm the effective stack at 1100.
Okay, so 1100 effective. So, I mean, obviously that makes a big, so we can visualize. So 115 and he raises to how much?
To 315, 200 more.
To 315. Okay. So whenever I'm in a situation like this, I always like to calculate pot odds and how much I have left. I mean, you guys are easily going to have still like almost 700 left. If you call, the pot's going to be somewhere around like 800 or 900.
I'm gonna have the pot at 775 if I call,
Mhm.
and I'll have about 725 left. So there's about a pot size bet left.
Right. And of course, you don't, here's the thing, right? You don't have one of the better nines. So, you know, if you had ace nine here, if you maybe had king nine, obviously, if you had a boat, maybe something like that, even queen queen, although because you're so invulnerable with queen queen, you know, a lot of people will call a check raise, but if it sort of, you know, if you're going to get the money in against a nine anyways, where it's not super draw heavy, but I might be doing some bet three betting with my best 9x here,
Yeah, I
you
probably would
know.
have three bet with like ace nine, but I
Right.
figure if he's playing pretty reasonable, and I don't think he was getting too far out of line. I mean, he was maybe playing a little bit too loose pre-flop, but I didn't see him do anything crazy. So, like, I don't think he has 9-2 or 9-4 here or anything like that. Um, so he might have Jack nine. He could have 8-9, which I beat, but I can
Hmm.
still chop on 8-9. So I
Right.
don't think there's much I can do on this turn other than call.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting too, right? Because the equities, there is a chance to chop. If he has a hand that is, you know, a less of a kicker than you, you're chopping on an ace, you're chopping on a king, you're chopping on a queen, chopping on a five, a fair amount of chop outs. But I think I would call here and sort of play a river and see what he does, you know?
So that's what I did. I
Okay.
call I called the 200. I'm left with about 725, and the pot's 775 on the river.
Pot 725. What do you
The pot's
just
775.
775? So what do you think that this guy has? Do you think he has another nine? Would he be doing this with a combo draw?
I don't know exactly. I mean, I feel like it's probably a nine. I don't know. I guess it could be a queen. If the guy has like ace queen and maybe thinks it's super strong. Um,
Turn spades with a straight draw, like a jack 10, king jack of spades type of hand, something like that. I don't know if that
could
goes
be.
on. Hmm.
I mean, certainly this game is aggressive enough that people will semi bluff on the turn. Maybe in my usual game at home, I wouldn't normally think that it happened, but I think it could happen here. So I don't love check raise, right?
Hmm.
But I think I can certainly continue the river. There's also some friends of mine mentioned that like sometimes people have like just a weird like pair of aces here when they like don't free bet pre-flop, but then again there was a limper, so I don't know how likely
Yeah,
some just weird ace or king hand could
that
be.
would be very strange with a limper in there, but yeah,
I
okay.
see it in my I see it in my home casino all the time, which is why I don't see it elsewhere. So um anyway, so the river 775. The river is the queen of diamonds.
Ah, interesting. Which probably really shouldn't. I mean, that should never. I don't think a good portion of your opponent's range, if any portion of your opponent's range, is a queen here, right? Because a queen just goes down to like a call mode a lot.
Right. And then he checks the river.
Ah, so so this is the so the big blind checks the river. So let's before we figure out what you should do here. We thought that he had a lot of. We thought he had a lot of 9x here, right? And then, or he could just be giving up, right? He could be giving up on a bluff as well here, too, which we're not going to get called by. So we don't care about the bluffs. Now, what does your hand look like when you bet, call, go bet flop and bet turn?
It's got to be ace queen or king queen or better, right? I mean, I don't think I'm betting worse than king queen on the turn. Um, I guess I could have. Well, I don't know.
Well, you have some overpair. I mean, some people might do some pocket. They might be concerned. I mean, you might be doing some checking behind here when big blind calls next to act, right? Because he has a lot of 9x. But in live poker, some people might still bet queen x. Some people might still bet overpairs and things like that. Here's the thing: because he just doesn't have a queen here all that much, and you certainly can have a queen here a lot. If he has a nine, you can just put him like in quite the spot here. Now, I don't know how often it's going to work, but it's a free roll. Like, there's just no way this guy has a queen here and he's checking at the end the way that this one's played out. I'm sorry, I don't buy it. So it looks like you have a pot size bet left, so you could really, really put him in a world of hurt here. with what looks like a right around a pod-sized jam, right?
And that's what I do. So
Oh,
after about
nice.
15 or 20 seconds, I jam for 725
Yeah.
because I had the same way. Like if he has a queen and
Hmm.
he check raises a turn, he's just never checking the river, right? He's going to make it 250. He's going to try to get some value if he rivers queens fold, right?
Right, right. No, yeah. Well, I don't think he has queen. So it's just like the way that this hand goes down. I just never think that this guy has a queen.
So I thought the
Yeah,
exact same thing. I
yeah,
thought this was just a free roll, right? Like I think given this line, he either has nines, he probably has a nine or a bluff, right?
yeah. Exactly. If he literally never has a queen here, and he has a nine here, and he has just nothing, then shoving has to be the play. Because there's some non-zero chance that he's going to fold the nine. Some people are saying pocket fives. I just don't see that really with the guy behind. I think.
Another guy I ran through this with mentioned pocket fives. I don't know. Yeah, it's I guess, but I mean, does pocket fives call in a flop?
That's what I'm
Maybe.
saying.
Yeah.
No, I mean, no, I like this play. I mean, I'm on board with you. I like the play. I kind of wish you almost even had a little bit more money here. But I do like the play. I mean, I think our thoughts are aligned here. So you jam for
Now,
725. Okay.
if I had like significantly less, like let's say I had like 300 or 400, is it still worth it? Like,
Um, if the guy never has a queen, it has to be worth it. Now here's the thing. So the only difference would be if you were shorter. This is with the assumption if he never has a queen. The only difference would be is if somehow you were just trying to target some other hand that was making some sort of play at you that might call as a bluff catch. But I just don't see like how many ace high types of holdings here are really out there. Like he'd have to check raise like pocket eights, pocket sevens on the turn, something like that, which is
right.
kind of bizarre. You know what I'm saying? But at this stack depth, I like the play. As some people say, I hate this play. I don't understand. It's just it. Yeah. I mean, I think that some people, and I mean, I don't know how often a nine's going to fold here, but I think to some people for like a full stack, there is some fold equity here.
Um, so he thinks for 10 or 15 seconds and mucks. He never tells me what he has. He never doesn't show.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't insta fold, and he didn't seem happy to be folding. So I'm assuming he had to have a nine.
Or he could have just been playing off of, he could just be, trying to save face. What's interesting, it's interesting from your opponent's perspective if he does have a nine here. Or for example, like I'm trying to think of like if he had a bluff, should he continue on this card? And the reason why I find that interesting is because would he bet a nine here? Because I'm trying to put my opponent in your spot. How many queens do you have here where I'm scared of a queen? If I have a nine, am I betting? Because then what are you getting called with? Or excuse me, what are you going to call with? Like, are you calling with an overpair if an overplayer is even played in this manner? It's kind of interesting. If I have a nine in your opponent's spot, might I check call with a nine? Might I check call to induce a bluff? Because I don't know if you're taking a queen X for this spot. I think with a nine, I do check call, or that's the line that I take. But you're not playing against me here. The whole point of this is that your opponent I don't think ever has a queen here, so it can't be wrong to shove.
That's what I thought when that river hit.
It's just
when the river hit and he checked, I was like, look, I think I'm free rolling, right? That's what I felt like, right? Because I just don't think he ever check raises and then checks a queen.
It's just. I mean, I guess once in a great while somebody could say four queens, but that's just like sort of as rare. The limp pre-flop, check raising a boat, and then checking quads on the river. Again, from the other perspective, if you're never getting a nine to fold, we're saying he never has a queen, but if you're never getting the nine to fold, then the play can't be right either. And then, actually, another alternative, which I want to incorporate in my game here sometimes too, there is a third alternative. And I learned this from a former friend of mine, which is the reverse spaz block. as you can call it. And what is the reverse spaz block? So he checks to you and you bet like $40. So he was he had a bluff and he was gonna give up and he had no intention of continuing on the river, but you bet some stupid amount to get him to spaz to induce a check raise bluff, and then you just snap him off.
I, people have done that to me. So,
Has it worked? Have you spazzed
oh
off?
yeah, yeah, I've spazzed before. Like,
Well, I
you
mean
just
that
like
might be the
you have like
best
a
way.
$300.
That might be the best way.
I know it's so bad. Like, you see a $300 river pot, a guy bets like $20. You're like, I just can't respect that, And
Yeah.
then you raise him and he just snaps you off. So
Math Magical 55 says he has more queens than nines. How does he have more queens than nines?
I can see him having a queen when he check raises the turn. Like that's a possibility. But he just
I I
never
find it
checks the
hard to
river.
believe. I find it very hard to believe. The two actions of him check raising the turn and then checking the river. I find with the queen there are 50 times more nines that check raise turn and check river than check raise turn with a queen and then
Right.
check
If
river.
if he has a queen and he checks the river, what do I bet? Right? Like I guess I could jam with a nines full, but I mean most of the time I'm just going to check it back.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I appreciate it, Douglas. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, Bart.